The story starts off at the National Kendo Tournament in South Korea. Several kendo matches are going on simultaneously. There we see a specific fight where one player is seen being too skillful for his opponent. He is constantly avoiding his opponent's attacks and creating openings for himself to work from. And after a while, he lands a sickening blow to his opponent's head guard, sending him down to the mat and winning the match. We are then introduced to him, Yi Shiho, the one who has won every match in his path in 20 seconds or less. He is hailed as the best kendo player in Korea by a long margin and also probably the best in the world. They wonder if there will ever be someone like him to take up the sports ever again. Then we move 3 years into the future where we see a very shady city, and inside one of the clubs in that place we see our main character Yi Shiho in a suit and all matured up with sword in his hand. We then see that a lot of people were taken out by him using that sword, leaving us down to only 3 people for him to take on. They all take among themselves and decide that it will be in their best interest to finish Yi Shiho right then and there. They all attack him simultaneously, one with a lead pipe, the other with baseball bat, and finally, one guy with a chainsaw. Shiho is unfazed and he uses his superior swordsmanship to evade the baseball-wielding opponent and slashes his head off. Then he attacks the chainsaw wielder, who he cuts the arms off of. And finally, he slashes the pipe wielder in half with ease, leaving the place soaked in blood. All of them are out and one the opponents, who still has a hint of life in him, asks Shiho who he is. Shiho keeps silent, but we soon see a man smiling creepily and clapping come into the scene. He says that what Shiho did was very cool to watch and that he would like for him to join his own squad. However, Shiho speaks up and says that the man was the one to be blamed for the downfall of his entire family. So one of them, either Shiho or that person, needs to be wiped out forever. Then we go back 2 years in the past where we see that Shiho is living with his family in Gangneung. Shiho tells his mother that she should sleep well and not worry about anything. Shiho then checks out the news where we hear that the lower class people are going through a rough patch in South Korea and thus being led into severely crippling debts. Even taekwondo and kendo gyms are being shut down due to the lack of funds. The other news says that thieves are running wild on Seoul, and they're targeting young alone women to steal from as they're vulnerable. However, that issue isn't being treated as seriously as other issues, so will it take for someone to lose their lives for them to take it seriously? Shiho then goes into his room and sees that he has a phone call. The call is from his kendo master, who is concerned and asks Shiho whether he quit doing kendo for good or not. Shiho says that he has indeed quit doing it. He says that he will be looking for a job to support his mother, who is sick. Then the kendo master tells him to come back instead of doing some regular job as his talent is too precious to be wasted on things like that. Only way kendo players can earn money is by running a gym, and the master tells him that he is willing to have Shiho as an instructor at his gym. Shiho, however, declines the offer as he is serious about getting a job and helping his mother. Then we see Shiho starting to pack up all his belongings into cartons and bags. There he finds a photo of him with his mother from the past, where both of them are looking very happy. He also sees other pictures of his time doing kendo and winning awards and medals for his performances at the tourneys. He also sees picture of himself, his sister Seon, mother, and his sister's friend. He then thinks about when they had taken the picture. It was during the university admission of Shiho's sister. She takes a selfie with Shiho and their mom, and Shiho is disinterested in that. She says Shiho always ruins the pics by being gloomy and never smiling. Her mother then asks her if it is really okay for her to live in a high-class city like Seoul all alone. After all, it's not easy living alone as a girl, and it might not be safe either. She assures her mother saying that Seoul is a safe place to live and that this is her chance. After all, many people from the smaller provinces come to study and live in Seoul, so there's no reason for her mother to think only she is the only person doing this. Her brother, Shiho, then tells her that if she ever gets into any trouble, she should draw an infinity sign. He explains that it's like an 8 lying on the side. His sister is annoyed from them being so worried for her and said that they worry too much. She then introduces her friend, Sua, to her family, and then they take a group photo together, which Shiho was seeing all this time. Back to the packing his belongings, he notices a weird message on his phone and starts worrying about his sister. He drops one of his kendo trophies and breaks it. He calls his sister's number and sees that it is not being picked up. He then thinks of the news of thieves targeting young girls who live alone. Cut to a different scene, we see that a bunch of thieves are checking a diary and joking about why someone would draw the same sign over and over again. They then say that they should leave before it's too late as the person is still getting calls on her phone. The call coming in was from a contact named Brother, and the signs drawn were the infinity sign, and we see a girl hanging in her room. Then we see a picture of the now late Si-hyun. Her funeral is being held and people who know her are coming to pay their respect and mourn her loss. Sua, her college friend, is one of them who makes a visit, and she is deeply involved in all the procedures. She asks Shiho how his mother is doing, to which Shiho tells her that she is laid out over there and has no energy to move around and check out everything. Sua is saddened by this and is about to leave, but she finds something unsettling, so she asks Shiho if they can talk outside. Then we see the both of them outside, and Sua finally breaks her silence when she asks Shiho how he is so calm despite the passing away of his own sister. Si-hyun had always told her that Shiho was an emotionless psychopath, but she still didn't expect him to be so calm when his sister is no more in this earth. Shiho thinks of the past where a girl had asked him the same question, "Why is he a psychopath?" To which he had replied by saying that he is this way because he cares about her. However, this time around, he doesn't say anything about it and asks Sua if she has anything to say to him. Sua is pissed off by this as she asks how can he be so calm when things are this way. But Shiho ignores the question and says that if she doesn't have anything important to say, he will go back to mourning. Sua, disgruntled, also leaves the place. Inside the mourning room, Shiho notices flowers given by the flash group's Yu In-sung. Later on, Shiho goes to his sister's apartment to check on her belongings, and he finds the record that Si-hyun had a debt given by Yu In-sung, estimated at 1 million Korean won. This shocks Shiho, and he goes on to check further belongings of his sister. He finds a large and expensive set of beauty products, and the exotic and branded dresses. He then finds his sister's diary where she had a picture with Sua in skimpy clothes and the Flash Bars logo behind them. He then turns the page to see the several hundred infinity signs that his sister had drawn for help, and this shakes him to the core. Later on, we see that Shiho has gone to Hanjin University, where his sister studied. The people are weirded out by seeing this unknown man. Sua runs into him, and they both go to a nearby cafe to talk. There Shiho shows her the picture she had taken with Si-hyun and asks her what it is about. Sua simply says that it was taken at a club, but Shiho says that it was taken at the Flash Bar. We then see that Sua and Si-hyun were indeed working at a bar where they would invite men, put on a show for them, and earn money for it. Sua seductively invites a man through text to see her at the bar, where they'd be wearing bikinis, and Si-hyun tells her that the inviting part is the one that sucks the most about this job. Later, after getting dressed, Si-hyun asks Sua to take a picture with her. Sua declines, saying that they shouldn't leave any trace behind of them working at that place. Sua insists, however, and they end up taking the picture which Shiho had just seen. Sua admits to working at a bar with Si-hyun but says that it wasn't anything indecent as they wouldn't get touched by the men, and if anyone tried anything bad, they'd be kicked out. She also tells him that their manager is a kind and caring man, and that he also sent flowers for congratulations at the funeral. Shiho then asks if Sua is hiding anything about Si-hyun from him. Sua is about to answer, but she spots the shadow of a mysterious man outside. She gets scared and tells him that there is nothing wrong and leaves the scene. We then see that Shiho's fists are bandaged up from punching the wall after seeing the infinity signs drawn by his sister for his help. He then realizes that his sister hadn't taken her own life and that there was controversy behind it. The scene changes, and now we are at the police station. At the police station, we see Shiho sitting down with Detective Lim. Shiho tells the detective that his sister's passing away was not due to her taking her own life, but instead has links to other places. The detective is skeptical of this and says that it doesn't make any sense to claim stuff like that. The detective asks Shiho if his sister was cremated at the funeral. If so, there is nothing that they can do, as an investigation into these things require an autopsy to say if it had other links to the passing away. And further on, it was Shiho's family who had told them that they don't want to do an autopsy as they considered her passing away was a cause of Si-hyun taking her own life. Shiho explains that they had declined to do an autopsy because his mother was against it. However, he has now found leads that makes him believe that it was not a cause of self-inflicted damage. He then tells Detective Lim about how he and Si-hyun had planned that if they ever get into trouble, they draw the infinity sign to ask for help. The detective asks how would that work, and he says that they would just text an 8 to them. However, Si-hyun was too scared about opening up about working at a bar to her brother, so she could never message her. So instead of that, she drew it over and over again on her notebook, as she felt helpless. The detective isn't ready to accept anything, and he tells Shiho that investigation can't work this way, and that they need concrete evidence for an investigation to take place. Shiho tells him that he could at least look into the bar she worked at and ask them some questions to get a lead from them. However, the detective refuses and says the most suspicious one is Shiho himself because he shows no emotion about such a serious situation. As he gets no help from the police, Shiho gets up and leaves the place. The police detective is making fun of him, saying that even weird kids are trying to become detectives without qualification. Later, we see Shiho at Samseong-do, where he heads into his deceased sister's workplace, the Flash Moden Bar. He goes inside to investigate, and he starts picking out every minute details from the stuff going on there. Whether that be the outside bodyguard, the woman working, or the owner who is at the cash, taking a phone call from someone else, or how the dimension of the basement room is. He then enters the room and a girl comes in. The girl informs him about the rotating nature of it, how girls would change for every drink. She also tells him about the no-touching policy. The manager seemed ready for it because Detective Lim had already told them about how Si-hyun's brother is suspecting them and is trying to find proofs against them, so the manager was ready for it. The girl asks if they should lie about being booked and kick Shiho out, but the manager tells the girl to tell everyone to give no information about Si-hyun to Shiho and send him off properly. The girl also tells the manager that SUA hasn't been working since the Si-hyun incident, but the manager tells her not to worry about that. Then Shiho keeps on buying drinks after drinks and getting himself drunk heavily as he asks every girl if they have anything they know about Si-hyun. Everyone tells him that either they don't know her, don't care for her, or don't remember her. Left with no choice, Shiho decides to sign off by paying with his card. The manager and the girl send him off, telling him to come back again when he wants to, and after he leaves the bar, the manager says that they should do something to put him on the shelf permanently. On the streets, Shiho is left struggling from drinking so many times. He is struggling to walk, and the lack of information he gathered adds to his frustration. However, at that moment, we see 3 dangerous-looking men starting to follow Shiho with seemingly bad intention. However, Shiho seems down and out because of drinking so much. The 3 goons try to take advantage of it and approach Shiho. They ask him to come to the alley in the corner so that they can discuss stuff. After going there, Shiho is asked if he spent all his money on the girls and is told to give them money as well if Shiho wants to get out of their grasp safely. Shiho calculates that it will be very hard for him to take on these 3 at once in such a narrow alley. Shiho tells them that he doesn't have any money on him, so they decide to beat him up for it. They decide to break his legs and leave him crippled for not being able to give them money. Shiho wonders if all this is really because these guys want to steal money off of him, or could it be because he has been trying to get information about Si-hyun from that bar? However, as they are getting ready to attack him, Shiho gets ready and pulls out some paper put together and wrapped and holds it like a kendo stick. He warns everyone that it will end badly if they try to approach him. Everyone laugh it off and make fun of him for holding paper stick like it is some sort of weapon. Meanwhile, the Flash Moden bar manager is wondering if his goons have already taken out Shiho. So he goes out of his way to check the local CCTV feed to see if they have finished off Shiho. He goes there to find out that they've cornered Shiho. However, he is worried because from the unclear CCTV footage, it seems like Shiho is holding a knife. Back to the fight, the trio decide to end the funny games and attack Shiho properly. As Shiho is in full kendo mode, one of the goons run right into him, and he uses a very common kendo technique to hit the man right in the throat with the paper stick. However, Shiho's onslaught doesn't stop there, as he hits several super fast strikes to the man, which takes him out. Even though the stick is made of paper, due to Shiho's skill and precision, he can utilize it as a weapon. The next man tries to rush into him, still not taking Shiho seriously. Shiho shows his reaction time and agility to swiftly dodge past the man, and then jump up and take out the 3rd thug with a hard strike to the head. This shocks the only remaining man, as he asks Shiho just what is he using as a weapon. Shiho confirms again that it's just paper. The man then tells Shiho that he started the weapon fighting, so the man will continue it. The man brings out a big knife and says that he will be leaving Shiho gravely injured, and it will all be Shiho's own fault. However, it takes Shiho a fraction of a second to disarm the man, and after that, he brutalizes the man with his paper stick like how he destroyed all his kendo opponents back in the days. This puts the Flash Group's manager on notice as he can't comprehend what had just happened. Shiho then drops the paper stick, stomps on it as he leaves like nothing had even happened. The manager is still dumbfounded as to how he left 3 thugs laying in the ground all alone. He wonders just what's up with this guy as he gets up and makes a phone call telling someone to figure out just where Shiho lives and to figure it out as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Shiho is unwrapping his busted fists as he thinks that SUA definitely knows something regarding Sai-Hyen that she doesn't want Shiho to know about, as he thinks of what she said and how she behaved back then. As back then, he sat on SUA's seat to check why she looked so weird. He noticed that she must have looked outside and seen someone. He wonders if someone was watching her and is keeping her under their control. He also wonders that all those thugs attacking him can't just be a coincidence too. Maybe he can't put himself into more trouble if he goes looking for SUA again. However, SUA definitely knows something very important. On the other side, we see that the manager of Flash Group is sleeping peacefully when he gets a call from someone telling him about Shiho. He says that he has figured out the whereabouts of Sai-Hyen's brother. He is told that the target's name is Yi Shiho. He is currently living in Sai-Hyen's studio apartment. He originally intended to come to the place to check for his sister's belongings, but has decided to stay on for some reason. He says that Shiho's mother is in Gangneung Hospital at the moment and that she has broken down since the news of her daughter. The manager asks to reconfirm if Shiho is living in the same apartment as his sister, to which the caller says yes. He also adds that Shiho is a unique case because he is Kendo champion. Even though Kendo isn't very prestigious in South Korea, he is still a champion of the sport. The manager is a bit hung on the Kendo champion part after hearing it. The caller then asks if they should finish off Yi Shiho, but the manager says that Detective Lim had told them to not make big moves, so stay put till then. The manager then searches for Yi Shiho on the internet, and he says that Kendo really is unpopular in Korea. He then wonders how will he be able to put an end to Shiho without making things weird. Then we see that Shiho is sweating from hanging upside down and training his body for stamina. He is deep into the session when he thinks about the time when he saved his sister in the past when she was in an issue. His sister had asked if that what would happen if she ran into trouble again, to which Shiho told her to write the infinity sign. If she makes that sign, he will figure that she is in trouble and come to help her. However, the thoughts are interrupted as someone knows on the door, looking for Jian Deong. When Shiho opens the door, we see that it is the manager of the Flash Group. He recognizes Shiho and calls him the customer for yesterday. He then tells Shiho that he had rented this apartment for Sai-Hyen to live in. However, some time has passed, so they were looking to move out of the place, but the landlord said someone was living there. Shiho then harshly tells him that he is not done organizing his sister's belongings yet. Shiho then asks the manager that he had seen a 1,000,000 won condolence, to which the manager informs him that he was indeed that man. He said that he had to do it after he heard what had happened to Sai-Hyen. Shiho asks why is that so, to which the manager says that Sai-Hyen was always precious to him, but he has regrets about her. He mentioned that Sai-Hyen was one of the best workers at his bar. She always attracted an audience and could scout well. However, Sai-Hyen got stolen away from him from the 10 Pro Group. He informs Shiho that the 10 Pro Group are the top dogs of the entertainment business. There is no contest between 10 Pro and anyone else. While 10 Pro also has a talk-only policy and no round 2 for additional stuff, he had heard that Sai-Hyen faced something very humiliating while working for them, says the manager to Shiho. He also says that maybe that was the reason why she ended up taking her own life. The manager breaks down after saying this, trying to convince Shiho. Whereas Shiho is micro-analyzing every little thing about the incident. He notices how the manager clenches his hands uncomfortably, how he keeps wetting his dry lips and has an unstable stare. Shiho figures out that he is lying from his body language and acting, and then informs the manager that Sai-Hyen's passing away was because of someone else. He further adds to this by saying that the funeral was held without Sai-Hyen's body and that the body has gone for an autopsy. This bamboozles the manager as he doesn't know what to say. He is just scared because if the autopsy results come out, he will be in huge trouble. Shiho adds even more by saying that the body and autopsy results will come to him by tomorrow. This puts the manager in even more tension. With nothing to say, he tells Shiho that he is going to help him whenever he needs it, and that he will be going now. He then rushes on the CE and calls his thugs, saying that he wants Shiho to be dealt with in the night. He tells them that he wants Shiho's life to be taken away just like his sister. However, he warns them about Shiho being a martial artist and that they should definitely not take him lightly and go with some of their best guides. We then see Shiho running around his Saihyun's apartment until he finds a bathroom cleaning brush and looks at it in deep thought. Then we see the day turn into the evening and the evening turning into the night. As in the dark, we see 4 very strong-looking men coming out of a car which had just arrived near the house that Shiho is living in. One of the guys comes out and says that it looks they'll have to finish off both siblings with their own hands. To which another goon says that this time they need 4, but they don't care as they're getting paid a lot of money to do this. The big guy says that they should hurry up and get over with the job if they want to get the stuff they want. Then they make sure that all the equipments are packed correctly before going into work. After that, we see Shiho standing behind a wall with a long steel rod and observing everything. He calculates that if he lures them into the balcony area, they won't be able to attack all at once. Hence, only 1 to 2 will come, and he will have to deal with them with 3-dimensional movement to defeat them all. Meanwhile, on the other side, we see the Manhwa talking to Detective Lim. He informs Lim about how Shiho said that he is getting an autopsy results of Saihyun's body, and while he doesn't believe it, he doesn't want to risk his well-being just in case he ends up getting her autopsy results, and that's why he sent his men to finish off Shiho all forever. Detective Lim says that as long as they can cover up things well and clean up the mess caused in the room, they'll be fine and police won't get it. Back to the apartment, the thugs have entered it and are looking for Shiho. They can't find him initially, but after a while Shiho shows himself to them. He tells them that if they are here for theft, then there is nothing to take. However, the thugs say that they're here to take his life away. Shiho warns them as he gets into position with the rod that he is trained in martial arts, so he doesn't want to hurt anyone. However, the thugs don't care about that and are making fun of him. Shiho says that he will not hurt them too much as they're weak. This angers the thugs as they all bring out huge knives to attack Shiho. However, as one of them goes forward to attack Shiho, he simply hits him with a straight downwards kendo swing to knock him out and break his knife. The next 2 are dealt with easily as well, as he takes one of them out with a hit to the shoulder and the other with a swing to the neck. The final thug remains, and he is trembling in fear of what's going to happen. He tries to swing his knife, but Shiho disarms him in the throat with the rod to knock him out as well. The next day, we see that Shiho and the thugs are in the police station in front of Detective Lim. Detective Lim tells Shiho that the people he attacked had no crime history, so he can't call them criminals. And besides, the only charge that can legally be filed against them is for trespassing. Whereas the actions of Shiho will be considered a bigger crime committed. He wielded a weapon and attacked several people and went into downright assault territory. All of the people that were beat up got seriously injured, and that's why he is a much bigger suspect than the guys who trespassed. Shiho tries to defend himself by saying that he only defended himself from trespassers and nothing more. However, Detective Lim tells him that the laws of South Korea doesn't work that way and that he will be held accountable for wielding a weapon and assault. Then Detective Lim takes Shiho to a lockup and locks him up. He says that he is locking him up because he is a vagrant whose real address should be in Gangneung, yet is living in Seoul for some reason. He tells him to not misunderstand. Then we see a guy from the same cell asking Shiho how he got into trouble. Shiho doesn't answer but turns around to see him. The man says that he can tell that he was put into here because of issues with manager Yoo In-sung. After all, Detective Lim is in cahoots with Yoo In-sung and helps him get out of trouble. He specifically came for duty today to make sure things don't go north for Yoo In-sung. Shiho asks him whether he knows manager Yoo In-sung, to which the man said he does. He was once family with Yoo In-sung. However, as time went on, he realized that Yoo In-sung was a scum. The man also tells Shiho that if he likes Shiho's behavior and if he tells him everything honestly, he will help Shiho get out of this cell. Shiho then decides to start talking with him. Meanwhile, on the other side, we see Detective Lim on the phone with Yoo In-sung. He tells him that he has locked up Shiho for a short period of time. However, he can't keep him for long enough, so he tells Yoo In-sung to stop causing too much trouble as he can't back then and everywhere. Meanwhile, back in the cell, Shiho tells everything to the man, who says that he can't really do anything to Yu In-sung as a normal person. Shiho says what if he isn't a normal person? The man says he needs to break a few laws to even get a chance. Shiho asks what the crime side of life is like. The man then gets up and introduces himself as Do Kyung-gu. He is the owner of a karaoke bar in Shinsadong. However, he is currently in lockup because manager Yu and his people make false accusations and lock him up for selling drugs or doing other illegal things. He says that he is kind of a criminal too, a gangster. However, he has since left that organization. He says that he has gotten used to it, coming to jail, proving his innocence, getting out and repeating. Shiho asks if he has a huge problem with manager Yu, to which Do Kyung-gu says that the problem isn't even manager Yu, it is Representative Yoon. He was in the same group as them. However, Representative Yoon did a bloody coup against their leader and took over as the leader of the organization and started their mean streak. Do Kyung-gu left the group because he didn't want to associate with traitors. He then goes back into topic about Sai-hyun and says that if everyone is keeping quiet about Shiho's sister's case, then it must be because Representative Yoon is involved. Representative Yoon is known to remove people who go against his will, so it can be possible that he is involved in his sister's case too. Shiho asks just how can he meet this Representative Yoon, to which Do Kyung-gu laughs and says that Representative Yoon is no normal person. Meeting him would require for Shiho to get into the nitty-gritty side of life, committing crimes and maybe even taking lives. However, he suggests Shiho to not do things like that as he has a life ahead of him to live. So he should just accept it as if Sai-hyun took her own life and move on. Detective Lim then comes to the cell and asks Do Kyung-gu to come out of the cell. Do Kyung-gu says that he will get Shiho out too. Fast forward to later, we see that both Yi Shiho and Do Kyung-gu are out. Shiho thanks Do Kyung-gu for getting him out, while Do Kyung-gu says that Shiho was being unjustly held anyway, so there is no need for him to thank him. He then gives him a business card to contact him in need, and if he wants to drink, he can come to his karaoke bar named Again. The drinks will be on Do Kyung-gu. He then loans some money from Shiho because he doesn't have cash on him to grab something to eat. Meanwhile, the scene changes and inside the office of a huge organization, we see a shirtless Representative Yoon talking about how humans look like ants from far above, while manager Yu In-sung is getting scared. Representative Yoon says that he can crush anyone like an ant, and after he sits down on his chair and desk, he asks manager Yu In-sung just what will he do about the current situation. Manager Yu explains to Representative Yoon that Detective Lim has said to them that he can't defend them for much longer anymore, because he has hit his limit. Representative Yoon says that it is their mistake for failing in the first place. If they never failed, this wouldn't even been an issue. Yu In-sung apologizes for failing. Representative Yoon asks him whether it is illegal for someone like Shiho to beat up those guys the way he did in South Korea. Yu tells him that it isn't legal and asks Yoon if they should file a lawsuit against Shiho for doing what he did. Yoon says that they shouldn't do that because then he might get involved in the case and might end up getting in trouble. Yoon tells Yu to talk to Detective Lim and fix everything up. Make it seem like nothing like this ever happened to begin with. If they pay 2 million Korean won to Detective Lim, he will definitely find a way to cover it up. He also asks Shiho is from Gangneung. Yoon says that if he is from Gangneung and if he is living currently in Seoul, then his house might be empty, and that might mean that some kids might go there to smoke cigarettes and mistakenly burn up the whole place. He suggests to use that as an excuse to burn down Shiho's house. He also says that Shiho's mother is alone in an hospital, so put a knife on her throat and send the picture of that to Shiho to teach him a lesson. And further on, Yoon asks if Sai-hyun ever had any debt. Yu says that she was just working in a small bar and never asked for anything extra over her salary. She never even asked for advanced payment. However, Yoon says that it doesn't matter if she had debts or not, just tell her mother that she had debts on her and make her pay a lot. He tells him to get it all done as he doesn't like useless people. He then gets a call from his goons who says that they've drained the blood from those 4 thugs who were supposed to take out Shiho. They then ask Representative Yoon if he wants them alive or wants them finished off. Yoon tells them to finish off those 4 because they're useless and he doesn't want them anymore. This scares manager Yu to the core, who quickly says that he will be going to Gangneung to handle the business right away, and immediately runs out of the office. Then we see manager Yu in his car, telling the driver to go faster. The driver says that this is the top speed, but manager Yu is angry, and he tells him to go even quicker, and so he does. Meanwhile, in Gangnam Hospital, we see Shiho's mom, sick and barely staying together. A nurse comes inside to feed her food, however. She refuses. The nurse tries to make her understand that she shouldn't skip on food and that it's causing damage. However, just at that moment, manager Yoo In-sung walks into the hospital room and tells them that he is acquainted to Sai-hyun and that he is here to help her mother. The nurse tells him that Sai-hyun's mother is too sick and can't even talk properly. However, manager Yoo gives her a box full of fruits and tells her that he just needs to talk to her a little in private. Sai-hyun and Shiho's mother signs with her hand to tell the nurse it is okay, and so the nurse leaves. Right then, manager Yoo In-sung's mood changes and he goes straight into business. He tells her that her daughter Sai-hyun owns them money. He shows a fake contract that states that Sai-hyun had taken 200 million Korean won in advance from them. This puts Sai-hyun's mom into pressure. He then further goes on to say that Sai-hyun used to sell her body to earn money, and that she slept with many men to get money, and that's why he is here to claim back all the advance money she took. Sai-hyun's mother totally breaks down from this, and she finally speaks up by saying that Sai-hyun isn't the kind of girl who would do things like that. She was not raised like that. However, Yoo In-sung gets even more violent and grabs her hair before telling her that her daughter was indeed like that, and that she was a prostitute who would sleep with any men, saying that Sai-hyun took after her mother. Sai-hyun's mother keeps on saying that Sai-hyun would never do anything like that, but manager Yoo keeps hurting her by pulling her hair and also verbally abuses her. At one point, Sai-hyun's mother's eyes go dull. She collapses and stops moving altogether. This scares manager Yoo In-sung as he knows that he has seriously messed up now. Later, we see that Shiho is sitting in Sai-hyun's apartment, looking at the card Do Kyung-gu gave him. He wonders if he can ever rise up to the level of the gangsters. If he can't, then should he quit? Then what will happen to Sai-hyun's revenge? Just then he gets a call from Gangnam Hospital, informing him of his mother passing away. This moment breaks Shiho. However, he tries to show as less emotions as he can. On the other hand, we see Yoo In-sung talking to Representative Yoon on the phone. He tells Mr. Yoon about what happened in the hospital room and how Shiho's mother had passed away from it. Mr. Yoon asks if Yoo In-sung was the one who physically took her life. However, Yoo In-sung denies, saying that he only threatened her about the debt and maybe that caused the effect. Mr. Yoon then tells manager Yoo to take back the debt money from the older brother. As in Shiho, Yoo In-sung seems hesitant, but he has no choice but to agree. And about the house burning, he says that he will handle that too. After the call, manager Yoo looks visibly conflicted as to what he can even do at this point. However, he has no choice but to do it. The driver tells you that director Choi lives in Gangnam City, so maybe he should give him a visit and ask for help. This triggers something in you as he gets his mojo back and says that he will do that as he has an evil smile on his face. The scene changes to the funeral of Shiho's mother. Shiho is mourning another death of his loved ones, and that is when the nurse who was taking care of his mother comes. Shiho greets her and asks her how she knows about his mother. The nurse tells him that he was the woman taking care of her in the hospital. Shiho asks her to eat with him, and as they go to eat, the nurse speaks up about the day Shiho's mother passed away. She says there was someone who came to meet her that day. This news shakes up Shiho a bit as he listens to her continue. She says that the man who came to meet his mother and wanted to have some small talk with her privately. Even though the man who went to talk looked neat, the person standing outside, who told her to leave from the area, looked like a gangster. She recalls that she heard some loud screaming noises from the room. However, the guy guarding outside wouldn't let her in. She says that she was away for 10 minutes, and when she came back, she saw that his mother had already passed away. As they are talking, we see a bunch of unknown people enter the funeral house and start a ruckus. They start breaking things and say stuff like, "Why would anyone celebrate the funeral of a prostitute's mother?" The thugs enter the room and are making a scene. Shiho asks them how they had gotten there. The thugs don't take him seriously and start making fun of him. They ask him if he is the chief mourner and if the dead is his mother. One of them says that if one speaks ill of someone's mother, they get mad. However, Shiho's face didn't even change. They say that he must be scared. They then tell him that his sister Yi Sai-hyun had a debt which was bought of by them. So it is 200 million Korean won plus another 100 million won of interest, so 300 million won in total for them to pay back. They ask Shiho how he will pay back all that money. Shiho says that they have a house of their own, to which the guy says that he knows that much from his research. However, The house is burning as they are speaking, so he can't rely on that. Despite this, Sihu's face doesn't change and they wonder how he can keep a straight face, while one of the guys says that he must be frozen due to shock like some people get that. They keep harassing Shiho, they grab his colors, smack his face and threaten him up a lot. Shiho tells that they have some money in the safe and that he will bring back those money and give it to them. The guy asks Shiho if that some money is 300 million Korean won and when he would be able to give those money to them. Shiho says that he will give the money to them after the funeral is done and over with. However, this pisses them off, as they are obsessed with the money and want it as quickly as possible. They tell Shiho that they want it before 12 a.m. midnight and that it's the final time. Shiho asks for the location he needs to give it to them. They then give him a card, which shows their address. They are the members of the Choi group and they want the money at the Choi liquor and clothes store. Later on, we see that Shiho has arrived to the Choi liquor and clothes store with some baggage. However, it isn't just any baggage. He has come with his kendo stick to teach them all a lesson. The scene changes to inside the Choi office. We see that they're waiting for Shiho to come. It's 11:59 already, and they wonder if Shiho will come. They discuss if the funeral home is closed by now, and one of them say it is as it's very late in the night. They decide that they'll finish him up if he doesn't come with the money. One of them asks if it was important to gather so many people for this thing, to which another one said this is done to intimidate Shiho. We then see Shiho, who has come inside the building and is approaching the room. He gets a call from his master in Kendo, Park Tae-il. Park Tae-il tells him that he is hosting a Kendo tournament in Japan, and that if his mother's funeral is already over, he says that he will grab the earliest flight back to Korea tomorrow morning and give Shiho a visit. Shiho hangs up by saying that he will talk later as he has some important business to attend to. Shiho then thanks the teacher in his head for everything he taught him and says that he probably won't see him tomorrow. Meanwhile, we see the Choi gang look at the clocks and sees that it is already past 12. They wonder if Shiho ran away from here and that it can be possible because everything closed and the night is very dark. The leader of them called Manager Yu In-sung and tells him that Shiho still hasn't come and maybe had ran away. Manager Yu gets mad saying they should have taken better care of this case and that they shouldn't have let him go back then and hope that he would bring all the money for them. As they are on the call, Shiho enters the room. The leader hangs up the call and asks why he had been so late and if Shiho brought back any money along with him. Shiho says that he brought back nothing, as he stands there with his kendo stick. The leader gets pissed off and asks if he is joking with them and tells his good to gather him because he is asking for it. As Shiho takes stance and wonder to do in this situation, everyone gathers around him, and the leader of the Choi say that he has no way out of it at all as they've got him covered from all ends. The attack quickly starts as one of the guys squares up to Shiho with a lead pipe. However, Shiho, who is one of the best ever at kendo, is too skilled for him and he lands a thudding shot to first disarm him and then taking him out with a kendo stick strike. Everyone in his path gets obliterated one by one, and he uses his trusty kendo stick to beat people up vertical and horizontally. He even uses the knife to make someone blind. He soon takes out almost everyone. The leader is shocked by this and orders for everyone to take him out forever. On the outside, we see that there is heavy rainfall in the area near the Choi liquor and clothes store. Suddenly, one of the windows of the store breaks off, and one of the goons from the inside falls off from it, busting his head open and leaving a pool of blood. Inside the office, we see that bodies are lying everywhere, all in incapacitated states as there's only one man who stands tall, Shiho. Shiho is walking towards the leader of the Choi gang with his kendo stick in hand, and the leader is now scared and is looking very helpless as he pleads to Shiho for him to leave him off. Shiho, looking more serious than ever, points his kendo stick towards the man and asks him just who is behind all this carnage that the Choi group has caused. Out of sheer fear of being mauled by Shiho, the leader speaks up in a trembling manner saying that he was caught in a counterfeit. Shiho asks the leader what he means by counterfeit. The leader hastily explains that he was told that they were selling bonds of 200 million Korean won for just 5,000 only. So he bought them and caused trouble for Shiho and his people, and it ended up causing him more trouble than anyone else. Shiho says that he will let the leader off without hurting him if he tells him who was the one who sold him the counterfeit bonds. The leader hesitantly says that he doesn't know exactly who it was. However, it was someone from Seoul, who runs bars and body salons. The description of this person matches with Shiho's image of Manager Yu In-sung, and so he goes on, without hurting the leader. As Shiho walks off and tries to open the door to get out, the leader doesn't really get it. He wonders if Shiho is dumb for letting him off freely, so he tries to sneak up on him from behind with a knife. He dashes in trying to stab Shiho with a knife. However, Shiho turns around and swings his kendo stick hard to knock the knife out of the leader's hand, before delivering a thudding straight hit to the leader's head with the stick, leaving him beaten and busted up, leaking blood. We see Shiho as raged up and angry as we've ever seen him as he does so. Meanwhile, the next day at the funeral home, we see Park Tae-il, Shiho's kendo master, paying a visit and mourning the passing away of Shiho's mother. He checks his texts where we see a message from Yi Shiho where he says that he couldn't visit Park Tae-il because of the condition of his heart at the moment. He also sent him a text saying that he has transferred whatever little money he had on his bank account to the one of Park Tae-il's for him to hold a proper funeral for Shiho's mother. He also promises to meet Park Tae-il someday. Park Tae-il wonders just what is up with Shiho these days. On the other hand, we see Yi Shiho walking around the streets of Shinsadong as he looks for the again karaoke bar owned by Do Kyung-gu. He eventually finds it and enters the karaoke bar as he is met by Do Kyung-gu himself, who welcomes him. Shiho says that he came here for a drink as he was promised one by Do Kyung-gu. Do Kyung-gu tells him to go and sit inside as he will go bring him the drinks and the prettiest girl. Shiho sits inside as Do Kyung-gu walks in and asks him why he came so early because the girls don't actually start working until 8 in the night. Shiho says that he doesn't want a girl and just wants to talk with him. Do Kyung-gu asks him what he wants to talk about, and Shiho says that he wants to work for the again karaoke bar. Do Kyung-gu tells him that they're already full and don't have space for another employee. Shiho insists, saying that he doesn't need a salary to work, he just wants a place to eat and sleep in. Do Kyung-gu guesses that something must be wrong with Shiho with the way he is behaving but doesn't ask explicitly. However, he lets Shiho know that there isn't much he can do to help him in this case. Shiho says that Do Kyung-gu had told him of one way to get close to Representative Yoon, referring to when Do Kyung-gu says that he needed to join the life of the underworld, do crimes and take lives to get into a power struggle with them. Do Kyung-gu confirms what he says, and he can't believe that he chose this path, as he thought Shiho would move on with life. He laughs it off, however. Shiho is damn serious. Shiho tells Do Kyung-gu that he will back him as he sees Representative Yoon as a traitor, and while his motives might differ from that of Do Kyung-gu, they can still work together. Do Kyung-gu laughs it off again, saying that Shiho is crazy for thinking that he can do that, but Shiho is adamant. This brings the serious side of Do Kyung-gu out as he says that a normal person like Shiho has no business saying what he just said, and that if anyone else hears this, his life will be in danger. Do Kyung-gu says that he will pretend this conversation never happened before he goes out of the room. Devastated by the reaction, Shiho, instead of drinking from the glass, grabs the entire bottle of whiskey and gulps it down in one go, which makes him lose consciousness. Later, we see that people have gathered around Shiho to wake him up. One of them is a pretty young lady. As Shiho wakes up, he sees the face of the young lady and sees Saihyun in her. He is shocked by this as he asks the girl if she is Saihyun, to which the girl also asks him about how he knows her name. He can't believe that Saihyun is alive. Later on, we see that Yi Shiho is sleeping peacefully on a couch before he slowly comes back into his senses and jumps up from the couch as he realizes the things that had transpired. Do Kyung-gu is sitting there waiting for him to wake up, and when he does, he asks Shiho if he is back up, and then he says that he didn't realize that Shiho was such a soft human being. He thought of him as someone stoic and composed with himself, but it turns out that he is not. Do Kyung-gu then gets up from his seat and walks away in disappointment when Shiho calls him from behind and tells him about how his mother is no more in this world. Do Kyung-gu gives his condolences to Shiho, who further goes on to say that they, the Flash Group, are the ones who had finished off his mother. Shiho also tells Do Kyung-gu about how they made a scene at the funeral home and disrespected his late mother. And that's what broke her so hard, he says as he clenched his fist. Shiho then gets up and apologizes for causing so much trouble to Do Kyung-gu and says that he will see him later. But just as Shiho is about to leave, Do Kyung-gu stops him and tells him to wait a bit. Do Kyung-gu then asks Shiho if he has a place to go to which Shiho says that he doesn't have one. Do Kyung-gu then reluctantly agrees to let him on board. He tells Shiho that he doesn't know why he is so soft-hearted, but if he doesn't have a place to go, he can work at his karaoke bar. He also tells him that he can sleep here at night as this was used as a hideout anyway during the crackdowns. Shiho doesn't understand what he means by crackdown, so Do Kyung-gu assures him by saying that while there used to be crackdowns back in the days, it doesn't happen anymore. It used to happen in the early days when they first made the karaoke bar. Shiho then notices the expensive pool cue and balls that are framed in the wall and stares at them. Do Kyung-gu notices this and tells him not to stare at them as they're expensive. Do Kyung-gu then further adds by saying that he shouldn't try to interfere in the business of Representative Yoon Sang-tae as that will put his life in a lot of danger. He should instead focus on the store from now on because he is a store manager. He then goes on to telling Shiho to not take orders from anyone else and only focus on what Do Kyung-gu says and listen to him only. Shiho agrees with all the conditions. Do Kyung-gu then asks Shiho how he knows about Sai-hyun. Shiho is a bit taken aback by hearing that name. Fast forward to later, we see that Shiho has dressed himself up in a suit and has started working as the manager of the Again karaoke bar. There he is talking to Sai-hyun, the girl who he had mistaken for his sister earlier. Sai-hyun says that her name is Sai-hyun and asks if Shiho will be working in the karaoke bar from now on. Shiho confirms this by saying that he will be working here from now on, and also tells the beautiful lady that he is sorry for what he did, and said when he got overdrunk. The beautiful lady says it's fine and that she doesn't mind. However, she asks about the name Sai-hyun. She asks Shiho if he mistook her for someone else, like if the name belonged to an ex-girlfriend of his. Shiho formally then tells her that he will be careful of what words he uses from now on. This visibly cringes out Sai-hyun and makes Shiho question if anything is wrong. Sai-hyun, still cringed out, asks if Shiho has any idea how old-fashioned he just sounded by the way he spoke just now. She says that it gives her chills wondering if Shiho is even from the 21st century. Shiho decides to ignore what she said and stays quiet. This gives her the chance to tease Shiho a little as she gets close to him and say that Shiho is really very old-fashioned. Shiho still keeps quiet about all things said, but Sai-hyun goes on to tell him to not be like this, to not be weak, because the weak are preyed upon here. Shiho says that he appreciates the advice from Sai-hyun, while Sai-hyun still teases him for how formally and professionally he has been talking with her. Then some time passes by and finally, Do Kyung-gu introduces Yi Shiho to everyone as the new assistant manager and tells everyone in the bar to also introduce themselves to him. He first introduces the 21-year-old waiter, named Hoon. Then he starts introducing the employees. Then introduces Yi Shiho as Kim Shiho and suggests everyone to call him Manager Kim. He then tells everyone to get along and get to know about one another as there might be things they don't know about one another, and also take care of each other. Sai-hyun gives an enthusiastic yes to show her agreement, so Do Kyung-gu asks everyone else to do the same and they do so. Later, we see Aaron talking to Sai-hyun about how good-looking the new assistant manager is. Sai-hyun says that while that is true, Shiho is still very old-fashioned and is delicate like a flower. Says that he might even cry if he has to live in these tough situations. 1 month later, we see that waiter Hoon is on the phone with Do Kyung-gu and after getting off, he tells everyone that they must close the bar off for today. Sai-hyun sighs asking if it's that day again, to which they say yes. They explain to Shiho how every month they get a fake case filed against them and how it ends up sending the boss to jail for a day or two. Shiho remembers how Do Kyung-gu told him about these things when they first met, but he still asks if it's not possible to run the bar while this goes on. They explain how doing that will put the boss and themselves at trouble because shady people come in and try to do very weird things to get stuff out of them. Manager Ryan then tells Shiho that he doesn't understand because it's his first time experiencing this as a manager. She also tells everyone to close out the bar. Then they tell every customer to leave the bar and refuse to take their payments. Some get mad because it is closing down so soon, but they don't waste time. They close off the bar and everyone goes their own way. However, just when everyone leaves, we see that Shiho has turned back on the lights for the bar from the outside, and in the inside, we see him ready to fight using the pool cue sticks from before.